Dames en here, die akademiese prosessie sal binnekort inbeweeg. U word versoek om asseblief op te staan.
Bomma le bontate, molokoloko wa dirutegi o tla tsena mo nakong e kopana. Le kgopelwa go ema.
Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession will enter shortly. You're kindly requested to stand.
By the power vested in me, I hereby constitute this assembly as the legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred on the candidates whose names appear in the program. You may please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor for me to welcome you here this afternoon on behalf of the University of Pretoria. Today, we will be conferring 107 degrees in the Faculty of Law. Of these, 9 are doctorate and 98 master's degrees. I wish to extend a special word of welcome to my colleague, the Vice Principal Academic, Professor Ferris, the Dean of the Faculty, Professor Steve Cornelius, to the Acting Dean, Professor Joel Modiri. Welcome to the Deputy Director of Recruitment and Student Enrollment, Mr. Wallace Isaacs. A warm welcome also to the chairpersons of schools, heads of departments, supervisors, lecturers, and the representative from the Student Representative Council, Ms. Letabo Poshlane. Welcome. It is also a singular honor for us this afternoon to have among our guests Judge Dire Shladi, Judge at the International Court of Justice, who is attending this ceremony as an external supervisor of an LLD candidate. Judge Shladi was a professor in international law here at the University of Pretoria when he was elected as the first South African to serve as judge of the International Court of Justice, widely known as the World Court in The Hague, in 2023. Welcome, Judge Schlari. To the students who will be graduating today, we are here to celebrate your achievements. This makes you and your families our guests of honor. Enjoy your ceremony. The Faculty of Law here at the University of Pretoria is recognized for its quality legal research and publications, strong leadership in community engagement, and the ability to deliver graduates that are ready to contribute to society, in particular the legal society. The contributions made by this faculty through its various centers, moot court initiatives, the building of comprehensive repositories of legal documents, the development of legal publications and journals have been recognized both locally and globally. The UP Faculty of Law is consistently ranked among the top law faculties in Africa. The faculty holds the highest number of NRF-rated researchers amongst law faculties in South Africa, with a current total of 16. With a national context, the Faculty of Law distinguished itself as a premier center of advanced legal scholarship, having produced over 130 LLD graduates over the past 6 years, the highest output among law faculties in South Africa. The faculty also contributes to international legal scholarship through international academic exchange and collaboration, where it shares South Africa's unique legal experience within a comparative framework. One example among many is the Dean, Professor Steve Cornelius, recently being invited to contribute to the comparative private law module for master's students at the University of Genoa. Such initiatives not only enrich the academic experience of students abroad, but also reinforces the University of Pretoria's position as a contributor to international legal scholarship. There is a long recognition for the exceptional quality of the staff in our law faculty. I referred earlier to Judge and Dr. Schlari's appointment to the International Court of Justice. With the academic staff of this caliber, it is only to be expected that our students will also excel, and they do indeed. The faculty's performance in moot court competitions is just one example. Stimulating real court cases, moot courts prepare students for the legal profession, giving our graduates a distinct advantage when applying for clerkships at law firms following graduation. In March this year, our students delivered an outstanding performance at the national rounds of the Philip C. Jessup International Law Moot Court competition, further cementing the faculty's reputation for excellence in mooting and international legal scholarship. The UP team advanced to the final round and securing an overall runner-up competition in the national competition. The team, composed entirely of women, was widely praised for the quality of their research, professionalism, and the strength of their legal arguments. Our students are the best ambassadors of the faculty's academic excellence and our quest for social justice. Our message to students and the students graduating today: I want to give you the assurance that as the University of Pretoria, we are committed to protecting the intrinsic value of your qualification by continuing to pursue our vision of academic excellence. The Faculty of Law and its dedicated lecturers have created real opportunities for you to succeed. We would like to see you join the large number of respected leaders in the legal fraternity that came from this faculty. This will require continued commitment to your professionalism and to living the principles and values of our Constitution. Always remember that when it comes to access to and dispensing of justice, there should be no distinction between the powerful and the weak. We trust that the degree you receive today has equipped you to navigate the complex ethical and judicial questions you will face as a legal profession. And as we say at UP, make today matter. It is our wish that as alumni of this university, you will continue to take an active interest in this institution, that you will support us in years to come, and that you will also be your best and be our best advertisement and ambassador to the outside world. We expect you to keep a critical eye on our progress as UP and to help us to live up to the standard you expect of us. Our very best wishes to all of you and congratulations on your achievement. Thank you. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidates whose names appear in the program.
Mr. Vice Principal, the supervisors will now introduce the candidates who have complied with the requirements for the doctoral degrees to you.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Ivy Gikonyo, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Mortgaging Africa, International Law and Human Rights Principles Governing the Collateralization of Strategic State Assets, prepared under my supervision. In this thesis, the candidate examined the nature and legality of sovereign debt agreements that use strategic state assets as collateral. The candidate did this by assembling applicable international law principle and human rights standards that should inform such collateralization while identifying gaps in existing legal frameworks. For exploring the impact of foreign control over critical infrastructure, the candidate demonstrates how the diminishing of a government's sovereign power can compromise its ability to protect and promote human rights. The lack of transparency and public participation in sovereign borrowing processes necessitates strengthening national public debt management laws and adopting an authentic sovereign debt framework. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Yumba Bernadette Kakwebwe, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctors of Law with a thesis titled Turning Legal Gains into Community Ownership in the Eradication of Child Marriage, an African decolonial feminist approach, prepared under my supervision. In this thesis, the candidate examined an African decolonial feminist framework that centers community participation as a necessary component in the eradication of child marriage in the Malawian context. The research posits the deep-rootedness of gender norms as a complex amalgamation influenced by both colonial and African patriarchy and value systems of which child marriage is partly a result. Furthermore, the embeddedness of this harmful cultural practice requires deeper interdisciplinary inquiry. Its meaning and its role in sustaining community ethos should therefore not be underestimated. In addition, its eradication cannot depend solely on shifting girls' mindsets, but must include crafting approaches that resonate with communities in which girls reside as an invitation to reevaluate and reframe how girls are valued. This thesis further proposes that the sustainable shifts to occur, collective buy-in for interventions is vital. Mr. Principal, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce you to Kim Kanyisa Peterson Mgwenyana, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled The Proficiency to Implement Online Alternative Dispute Resolution in Mauritius, Nigeria, and South Africa, prepared under my supervision. In this study, the candidate investigated the proficiency to implement online alternative dispute resolution in Mauritius, Nigeria, and South Africa, and specifically online arbitration, which can be adapted to align with both international legal standards and culturally grounded principles such as Ubuntu. The study was motivated by the increasing reliance on online dispute resolution systems in response to the growth of e-commerce, where disputes are high in volume but low in monetary value. While ODR has emerged as a practical solution to these challenges, its effectiveness in African contexts remains underdeveloped due to the absence of cultural integration and the implementation of standardized frameworks. The novelty of the thesis lies in its proposal for a culturally embedded proficiency model that integrates Ubuntu principles into the legal technical infrastructure of online alternative dispute resolution systems. This approach contributes to global discourse on culturally adaptive digital justice systems. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Davina Murden, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Enhancing Public Participation in Local Government through Structural Empowerment, prepared under my supervision and with Dr. Michelle Masiuisa as co-supervisor. In this thesis, the candidate examined the state of public participation in South African municipalities and the impact of structural empowerment on the performance of local government officials. The candidate did this using Cantor's concept of structural empowerment as a theoretical backbone to analyze factors such as access to information, professional support, and resource mobilization. For exploring the link between institutional capacity and community engagement, the candidate demonstrated how lack of empowerment for both officials and the public hinders genuine participation in decision-making. Achieving meaningful public participation requires a dual approach that addresses structural weaknesses within local governments while simultaneously empowering communities through improved transparency and targeted capacity building programs. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce you to Neliswa Latimo Njulo, who has complied with the requirements for degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled The Application of International Human Rights Law to Content Moderation on Social Media Platforms, prepared under my supervision. In her thesis, the candidate explores how Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights applies to social media platforms to safeguard freedom of expression in content moderation. The candidate critically examines how international human rights law is currently used to regulate transnational corporations, including social media companies. She evaluates the traditional view that Article 19 of the ICCPR applies directly to states and only indirectly to social media platforms with no binding obligations for the latter. The candidate proposes an alternative framework based on rules of treaty interpretation. She argues that social media platforms have binding obligations under the ICCPR applicable to content moderation. The thesis contends that while these obligations derive from the ICCPR, they are enforced principally through domestic legal systems. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Martin Chikuku Ovoor, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with the thesis titled Assessment of the African Union Regime on Environmental Democracy, prepared under my supervision. In his thesis, the candidate examines why the right to a generally satisfactory environment conducive to development remains under-enforced across Africa, despite recognition in key regional instruments. He demonstrates that the absence of a robust procedural environmental rights framework, including access to information, public participation, and access to justice, is the principal barrier. Drawing on Principle 10 of the Rio Declaration and informed by a comparative analysis of the Aarhus Convention and the Escazú Agreement, he makes a compelling case for revitalizing the environmental democracy on the continent. The candidate proposes negotiating an annex to the Maputo Convention to institutionalize these procedural rights, protect environmental human rights defenders, and establish an accessible, binding, non-compliance mechanism. His work offers a concrete, legally grounded pathway towards stronger accountability, enforceable environmental justice, and the meaningful realization of environmental rights for African citizens. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Jacob Salih, who complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled The Role of the Central Bank as Lender of Last Resort under my supervision. In his thesis, the candidate interrogated the central bank's role as lender of last resort that has been executed for 2 centuries based on Bogot's principle, which entails that a central bank should lend freely at a penalty rate to solvent institutions against good collateral to stem a financial panic. This discretionary lender of last resort role, however, came under intense scrutiny during the 2008 global financial crisis, deviating from the Bogot principle. The thesis examines the history of central banks and their responses as lender of last resort during the 2 centuries before the global financial crisis. It explores the causes and unfolding of the GFC, as well as the innovative responses of prominent central banks to mitigate the crisis. The study concludes with recommendations for a rules-based legal framework for the future application of the lender of last resort role by central banks. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Martinez Pieter van Staden, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Transformationism in South African Constitutional Discourse, a Historical and Thematic Appraisal, which the candidate has completed under my supervision. In his thesis, Transformationism in South African Constitutional Discourse, a historical and thematic appraisal, the candidate discerned the implications of transformative constitutionalism. Transformative constitutionalism is a manifestation of the ideology of transformationism, conditioned by strands of Marxism, trends in American legal realism, postmodernism, and so-called critical legal theories. Transformationism has attained authority in South African constitutional discourse. It prioritizes a distinctive historiography, attaching crucial importance to an irredeemably unjust past that seeks wholesale and permanent social re-engineering as the principal purpose of constitutional law, in pursuit of achieving homogenization and equal outcomes, and enlisting to that end an encompassing centralized state apparatus supported by a transformationism-inspired judiciary. The study argues that transformationism, manifesting in transformative constitutionalism, is incongruent with the principles of liberty and safeguarding of plurality, thus rendering it incompatible with the very foundations of the notion of constitutionalism. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree upon the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations. Thank you, Prof.
Mr. Vice Principal, the following candidates have complied with the requirements for the degree Master of Laws. Lebogang Mapele, with distinction. Surprise Mahlangu. Specializing in alternative dispute resolution. Sebungiseni Kosi, specializing in banking law. Gilda Kirstens, with distinction. Michelle Lucas, specializing in banking law. Olwyn Magardi, specializing in banking law. Sharon Manyapetsa, specializing in banking law. Gomolemo Matibe, specializing in banking law. Faith Moyo, specializing in banking law. Mpo Ramatsebe, specializing in banking law. Abigail Sokela, specializing in banking law. Nonhlanhla Nkosi, specializing in consumer protection law. Oloratu Joseph, specializing in corporate law. Chilitsi Mahumela, specializing in corporate law. Brizilda van Heerden, specializing in corporate law. Natasha Mutemeri, specializing in disability rights. Kiniso Mkatswa, specializing in environmental law. Sindile Tubela, specializing in environmental law. Sipafekile Maposa, specializing in extractive industry law in Africa. Mukondeleli Mataluga, specializing in extractive industry in Africa. Mamorake Serepo, specializing in extractive industry law in Africa. Rialetgile Shaba, specializing in extractive industry law in Africa. Richard Dempers, specializing in insolvency law. Matabu Lekalakala, specializing in insolvency law. Sibusiso Maklanki, specializing in insolvency law. Olani Masemola, specializing in insolvency law. Robin Samuels, specializing in insolvency law. Sipiti Sebeko, specializing in insolvency law. James McIndoe, specializing in insurance law and governance. Jacqueline Chiari, specializing in intellectual property law. Fortune Makore, specializing in intellectual property law. Muhammad Samaria, specializing in intellectual property law. Riabetswe Mampane, specializing in international air, space and telecommunication law with distinction. Chris Mogoboti, Mogobotiti, specializing in international law. Betty Mekonen, specializing in international law. Koketso Moshira, specializing in international law. Masego Mputi, specializing in international law. Keris Naidu, specializing in international law. Tariru Sekaramai, specializing in international law. Wamukelwe Spies, specializing in international law. The candidate also receives the John Dugard Prize to the student who obtained the highest average mark for the core modules AIL 802 and MCAL 801 in the LLM program in international law. Vusi Nkonyane, specializing in international trade and investment law in Africa. Samaria Madzunya, specializing in labor law. Ntukozo Ndlovu, specializing in labor law. The candidate also receives the SA Society for Labor Law Prize for the best student in the LLM labor law program. Zoleka Mazibuku, specializing in law and political justice. Seuliwe Mtalisa, specializing in law and political justice with distinction. Kekeletso Topo, specializing in law of contracts. Jacobus Blugnout, specializing in mercantile law. Gavin Blythen, specializing in mercantile law. Stanley de Vries, specializing in mercantile law. Brandon Groblaar, specializing in mercantile law. Tsunzukani Maluleke, specializing in mercantile law. Vunene Maluleke, specializing in mercantile law. Tobeka Mkize, specializing in mercantile law. Baidile Mokhadi, specializing in mercantile law. Masego Monama, specializing in mercantile law. Tsepang Chidi, specializing in mercantile law. Melanie Snedden, specializing in mercantile law. Selindile Kumalu, specializing in multidisciplinary human rights with distinction. Tanya Magaisa, specializing in multidisciplinary human rights. Segopoche Mampuru, specializing in multidisciplinary human rights. Matolo Mashilu, specializing in multidisciplinary human rights. Masego Skosana, specializing in multidisciplinary human rights. Linda Maposa, specializing in private law. Chelani Hinkadimeng, specializing in private law. Chiho Mabila, specializing in procedural law. Moses Machete, specializing in procedural law. Takalani Maseve, specializing in procedural law. Esmeralda de Lange, specializing in tax law with distinction. Muhammad Dokrat, specializing in tax law with distinction. Sasha Kreft, specializing in tax law with distinction. The candidate also receives the Juta Law Prize for the best student in the degree LLM coursework program completed in 2 years. Mukundeleli Machili, specializing in tax law. Tembela Mukuyana, specializing in tax law. Machidiso Monare, specializing in tax law with distinction. Fallon Munsami, specializing in tax law. Tumisang Ngubeni, specializing in tax law. Langutani Nwamba, specializing in tax law. Tabiso Panda, specializing in tax law.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us give our graduates a big hand for their hard work and perseverance. Thank you. Can I now ask our graduates to applaud their families, partners, and spouses for their support over the years. Thank you. We have now come to the end of today's proceedings. Before we close, I wish to invite all of you present for liquid refreshments afterwards in the marquee in front of this Rembrandt Hall. You are requested to please stand for the singing of the national anthem and to remain standing until the assembly has been dissolved and the academic procession has left the auditorium. The words of the national anthem will appear on the screens in front of you and the inside back cover of your program. I request you to please rise. By the power vested in me, I hereby dissolve this assembly of the University of Pretoria.
Nos The graduates have spoken. Let's give them another one. Graduates, I'll go on and more, the graduates. Sure. I'm not in take Sanamare. Not in take Sanamare.